I took this photograph last week at Ribblehead Viaduct. 50-mile-an-hour winds and driving rain. And honestly, it's still not a bad photograph. Decent exposure, the structure fills the frame, there's a moody sky. Most photographers would look at this and think, that's a result. And then there's this one. Same location, same day, just a few decisions made differently. I want you to hold a question in your mind as we go through this. Not which one is better, you can already see that, but why? What are the actual decisions that separate these two photographs? Because once you can see that clearly, I mean, really see it, you will never arrive at a location the same way again. The three mistakes I want to walk you through today aren't the obvious kind. Wrong exposure, out of focus, sloppy composition. Those are easy to spot and easy to fix. The mistakes I'm talking about don't look like mistakes at all. In the moment, they feel like perfectly reasonable decisions. And that's exactly what makes them so hard to catch. I know this because of the photographers I work with, not beginners, photographers who've been doing this for years, who care deeply about their images, who study their craft, who look at their photographs and sense that something's missing, but can't quite name what. If that resonates with you, stay with me. We're going to head out now to Ribblehead Viaduct. And when we get back, I'll walk you through each pair of images side by side, and I'll show you exactly what changed and why it matters more than you might think. One thing before we go. At the end of this, if you'd like me to look at your photographs personally and tell you what's actually holding them back, I offer free portfolio reviews, 5 a month. I'll tell you how to claim one when we get back. Right, let's go to Ribblehead. The first mistake that a lot of photographers will make is not looking for where the light is coming from. And your temptation is to rush and to find your first location. I set my camera up here because there's a nice leading line of the path into the viaduct. The viaduct itself fills the frame nicely. I can set it on a rule of thirds, but the key point is to look for where the light is coming from. And how would you tell that on a dull and cloudy day like today? If I look over here, there's some bright spots. I'm pretty sure the sun is hidden behind one of those clouds. I can see it lighting up some of the moorland. And that gives me a clue as to where I should be setting my camera up to take advantage of the light. There is another point which you might want to bear in mind, especially on a day like today. I've chosen a day with 50-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Why the hell did I choose that? I really chose it for this kind of moody weather. But one important point is, now that I've seen where the light is coming from and the way the clouds are moving, and right now my camera is facing directly into the wind. The problem with that is, if I want to take a longer exposure with an ND filter, very quickly my filters are just going to get covered in rain, and that's going to really spoil my image. So the second mistake a lot of photographers will make was trying to get the whole scene in, and by the scene I mean your subject, in this case the whole viaduct in. But there might be a more interesting viewpoint. You can see how I've got my camera set up here, and the reason I've chosen this particular scene is we've got a nice curve of the viaduct leading us into the frame. I'm shooting into the light now. You can see there's a few interesting things going on with the sky. I've framed up my image so that the viaduct is coming in from the top left-hand corner. And it's really just a question of waiting for some interesting light. I've put a 6-stop ND filter on. So I've got an exposure of about 8 to 10 seconds. It's varying according to how the light changes. Even that might be a bit long, but what I'm really looking for is how the clouds pass over my scene. And with the winds today, they're really moving very quickly. So it's about getting some of that drama into the sky. And it'll make a passable shot. But in a second or two, I'm going to show you another shot you could have taken if you thought a bit differently about your composition. One other option I'm just playing around with, I put my camera into portrait mode. I've lined it up just to show a few of the arches. In particular, to frame that tree between two of the uprights. Creates a completely different image. But the third mistake that a lot of us make basically is not being patient enough. I've chosen my final location. I put a little action camera on top of my camera so you can see what I'm looking at. Now, between the arches of the viaduct, the cloud is changing a lot as it sweeps across, and I'm just waiting for those right moments. You see, pre-visualisation isn't just about composition. It's about knowing what you're waiting for before it arrives, then you can press the shutter just at the right moment. A little bright spot just appeared where I wanted to, above the escarpments, just to bring my frame to life. So my patience has paid off, and it's starting to rain again now. I've got enough to play around with, so it's time to head back indoors and warm up. Right, those three mistakes. Let's have a look exactly at what I came back with. This was the first shot. As you can see, it's a nice wide shot. The pathway is the leading line, and there's a person stood on the path, which adds a little bit of interest. There's some mood in the sky. But I took this shot without looking where the light was coming from or what it was doing, and because of that, it's just a bit flat. If I compare it against this shot, which I took just a few moments later, I'd actually took some time to see what was happening with the light, and every now and again we'd get a little patch of it, and I caught this shot just as there was a patch of light in front of the viaduct. The sky had gone darker because the weather was changing all the time, and it's created a much more intentional shot. So in this next shot, I really concentrated on getting a full view of the viaduct. I set my exposure time carefully. It was actually about 6 seconds, so that I got some drama in the sky. And as a shot, I'm really pleased with it. I'd also waited for the light, and you can see it's lighting up the front of the arches as well. There's nothing wrong with this shot. For me, it's probably also a keeper. But it doesn't say anything about me or what I was trying to do with the shot or what I was trying to make the viewer feel. This was the second shot I took pretty much in the same location, just by moving around a few feet. Over the last few months while I've been doing this black and white fine art photography project, I've noticed much more that my eye has caught small scenes, and this was one of those. I felt I put something of me into the photograph, not just taking the obvious shot that most photographers would have taken if they'd stood in the same place as I was. Then this is my final shot. I was just looking for another composition, and I like this composition, so I took this photograph, but all in all, it's not that interesting. The light was changing, and I was watching these escarpments right in the background here, and every now and again you'd get a little glimmer of sunlight lighting up. And I eventually got this shot, and what really appealed to me is this little white cloud right here. I felt that brought the photo to life. The main difference with this one is it's a photograph with a point of view. Again, it's a photograph with intention, not just a shot that anybody would take. And here's the thing I want you to take away from all of this. Pre-visualization isn't a technique. It's not something you bolt onto your process at the end, like adding a filter. It's the first question you ask yourself when you arrive somewhere. Not where should I set up, but what do I want the person looking at this image to feel? Once you can answer that question, every other decision becomes clear. How long should you wait? What should you include? Where should you stand? It all flows from that one moment of intention. The viaduct was the same viaduct in every single one of those images. We couldn't change the structure, and we couldn't change the weather. But the light we learned to read, and in one of those pairs we waited until it was worth reading. What changed in every single case was intention. That's not a small thing. That's the thing. If you would like me to look at your photographs personally and tell you exactly what's holding them back, I offer free portfolio reviews, 5 each month. There's a link below in the description. I'd genuinely love to see what you've been working on. In the meantime, go out and have some fun with your camera. and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.